Hello guys, bonjour, and let's continue with our classes. Now, today we're going to make sentences using verbs that end in ER. As you may remember from the previous lesson, we made some sentences, but I didn't actually show you how those sentences were made or how we came up with those verbs. We used certain verbs like avoir, to have, être, to be, and so on and so forth. Today I'm going to show you how to make sentences and what you do with the verbs so that then you are able to make sentences with them. In French, we have verbs categorized in different groups. We have verbs whose ending, like the last letters of that verb, end in ER. For example, we have examples here. Aimer. Aimer, you can see here the verb aimer, which means to love. It ends in ER. Donner, which means to give, also ends in ER. Commencer, commencer means to begin, also ends in ER. Participer means to participate, and it also ends in ER. The next one here is parler, which means to speak. Trouver, which means to find. Décider, which means to decide. Appeler, which means to call. So then we have other verbs that end in IR. IR, like choisir, which means to choose. Partir, which means to depart. Sentir, which means to feel. Accueillir, which means to receive. Ouvrir, which means to open. Couvrir, which means to close. Venir, which means to come. Avoir also ends in IR, but I'll tell you that it is a special case. Then we have verbs that end in RE. Now, verbs that end in RE are verbs like vendre, which means to sell. You can see the last two letters are RE. And then so on and so forth. So let's begin with the ones that end in ER. And we are going to look at how do we conjugate them. Last time when we talked about conjugation, I explained to you that conjugation simply means putting the verb in a form that it can be used in a sentence. Like if we take the verb donner, which means to give, this one here, donner, to give, we have to conjugate it because to give is, in English, would say it is infinitive verb. That means it is just a verb. It has not been used in a sentence. You cannot say, I to give you a ball. No, you will simply say, I give you a ball or I am giving you a ball. You cannot say, we to give them food. You will not use it the way it is, to give. You will simply say, we give them. He gives. He gives presents. You will not say he give, because that will be wrong in English. So that transformation that the word to give goes through is what we call conjugation. And it also happens in French, just like it also happens in any other languages. So how do you conjugate the verbs that end in ER? Let's use the example of donner. So you'll repeat after me so that you get the pronunciation. Je donne. Je donne. Tu donnes. Tu donnes. Again, here you'll realize that S is silent, so you don't pronounce it. Il donne. He gives. Elle donne. She gives. On donne. One gives. In the previous lesson, if you don't know the meaning of on, look for the other recording. There is one in which I explained how it is used. Nous donnons. We give. Vous donnez. You give in plural. Il donne. Elle donne. Normally, in plural for they, that is il or elle, the verb almost sounds like it is in singular, but out of experience, once you've learned this language very well, you'll always be able to tell the difference. You'll realize that here, don is like there is some kind of delay when you are reading this out. Il donne, elle donne, il donne, elle donne. But that is just something that you will feel once you begin speaking French. But ideally, there is no big difference between these two in terms of pronunciation, except for the spellings. Now, when you look at the conjugation of this verb, you'll realize that for je, which is I, the first thing you do, first of all, is to remove the er from the verb. So what you do is that for donner, you remove this part, er, and then whatever you remain with, the stem you remain with this side, you now add e for je, you add es for tu, and il, el, or on, you add e again, just like for je, you add e here. For nous, you add ons. For vous, you add ez, and for il or el plural, you add ent. So the only thing that you may need to really remember here are these endings: e, es, ons, ez, ent. With that in mind, therefore, we can be able to conjugate the verb aimer, to love, to love, and to love. So if we are going to conjugate to love, what we do first of all is that we remove aimer here. We will remove the first the letters er. So once we remove the letters er, these two here, we remain with the stem. And this time we are going to now conjugate or add the letters that are appropriate according to the pronoun. So as we said for je, we are going to add e, so it becomes m. And for tu, again, the stem is let me just put it here so that you remember. So this is what we are removing, ma. So we remove the er, and so we remain with that stem, m. So for je, of course, I said you only add the e to the stem. For tu, you add es. You add es. For il, you again add only e. You remember? Like that. So you will say il aime, he loves, or elle aime, she loves, or on aime, one loves. Tu aimes, you love, and je aime. Now I've done this as the last one so that then I can explain to you that there is something else you will do for je that you have not done for these other two. And this one I also explained in one of the lessons earlier on, where I talked about the pronouns. And when it comes to je, because it is just a common practice, you can say that je has got an e and then this one starts with a vowel, but that may not be the strongest point, because even tu has got u and this starts with a. But in the spoken French, when you become familiar with French, you may decide to do that. But what must be done grammatically is that you'll close down that space, then remove the e and replace it with an apostrophe. So anytime you find a French sentence with this kind of structure, just know that on je, the e has been removed and replaced with an apostrophe, because for the sake of pronunciation, I guess. So instead of saying je aime, they basically want you to say j'aime, j'aime. And this you will see in many cases going forward where this happens. But tu aimes is allowed. But sometimes in the spoken French, you'll find somebody just tell you, t'aimes. They just decide to do that. Just to make it sound very fast, you know, like t'aimes le thé, something like that. But don't worry about it. So just master the first one, that it is the case where you use je, that this combines together. Anyway, for the conjugation, this is how we have conjugated aimer, and you can guess for nous what it would be. So for nous, it will be something like nous and then ons. Nous aimons. Nous aimons. We love. And vous aimez. Aimez. So here we add EZ. And the last one for they, il, or, elle, aime. Add the ENT. In terms of pronunciation, you will hear something that is a little bit different. For instance, you will hear me say here, nous aimons, and that is because we are, if you read this separately, this is nous, and this is aimons. But in French, there is what we call liaison, or a liaison, or relationship between these two, where you'll tend to pronounce the last sound or letter, if it is a consonant, from the first word here, and link it up with the first. If at all this side is a consonant, a, e, I, o, u, those are consonants, or y, h in French. Now here, so when you're reading this together, you'll tend to pronounce the S and the A, and that gives you sound z, z. So it becomes nous aimons. Nous aimons, and the same will be happening here. Vous aimez. Ils aiment, elles aiment. But even if you miss to do that, there's no problem. Grammatical, you're still okay. Because this is nous aimons, vous aimez. But once you begin to speak French and you say that, you'll feel like something is unusual. And it will not be a very good sound to say nous aimons, vous aimez. So you'll find it as a common practice to just to do that. So we have basically formed almost a sentence, but then, you know, they say that a sentence, a complete sentence, must have a subject, a verb, and an object. A subject in this case is the doer. Who is the doer in that sentence? So let's take an example of j'aime. Here, the subject is je, which is I, me, myself. Je, that is the subject. Aimer is the verb, and now we need to give that an object, because this simply means I love. But somebody will ask you, what do you love? So that next thing is what the object is. So you can say, I love tea. Let's get autocorrection. Yeah, so you say, I love tea. J'aime le thé. Again, if you don't know where this law or what this law means, please refer to the previous lessons, especially the lesson on definite articles. Lo, la, le. J'aime le thé. I love tea. I love tea. So you can see, this is very simple. You can easily make a sentence once you know how to conjugate verbs. Now, for you to practice this, take this list, and you can even Google if you don't get this. You can take a screenshot of these verbs which I've given you here. Commencer, participer, parler, trouver, décider, appeler. Conjugate them using this idea that is in this table, and then give it an object, and you'll find yourself forming sentences. Okay? Now, at this point, I want to give you a website that you can regularly use to translate or even to check out meaning or of words. This is a website that I like using sometimes. It's known as reversal.net. Reversal.net. Just a second. Here we go. So once you come to this site, you'll be able to see, for instance, let's say you have found the word participate, and you've conjugated participate, but you want to say I'm participating in a workshop. Here you can easily translate. In reversal.net you can easily translate. So you can even just write the whole sentence. I am participating in a workshop. What does reversal do? Je fais partie. No, that is not a very good one. Je participe à un atelier. Je participe à un atelier. So you can see already, if you know the conjugation, then you can realize that this is how you have conjugated this participate. Now, the only thing that you are missing is the object. You are participating, but in what? Because of these articles that appear before the word workshop, sometimes if you use the translation like this, it helps you figure out that. And so the only thing here that you'd want to know is an atelier means what? Alone means at. This word it normally means at, or sometimes it means to. But in this case, it means at. Again, if you don't know what this means, check out our lesson on indefinite articles, an, un, de. You will get to know that this atelier is a noun, and it is a masculine noun. That's why it is an atelier. So atelier is the workshop. You see, in this case, then it is very easy for you to understand the meaning of this sentence. Je participe à un atelier. I am participating in a workshop. So even if you didn't want to translate like this, you want to do the hard work yourself. So you only check the meaning of workshop. Then you'll find that the meaning of workshop in French, translation of workshop in French is atelier. And as you remember, when I showed you in the other lesson about checking words in the dictionary, you'll find, like in this case, it has got N and M. N means that it is a noun, and M means that it is masculine. So you would automatically know that it is an atelier. So that would make it very easy for you to form that sentence and simply say je participe à un atelier. Je participe à un atelier. Okay, so I think that's it for this particular lesson, and let's move on to the next group of verbs.